Kronos: The New Dawn is the first true example of a survival action horror game, a hybrid genre that I'd love to see more of. There's always been a pretty clear distinction between the genres of survival horror and action horror, and while some titles in each genre mix in aspects of the other to some degree, Kronos is the first game, in my experience anyway, to actually be a hybrid of both. That's the angle I want to approach this video from. Yes, I am reviewing the game generally, but I'm mostly going to focus on how successful it is at establishing what is, in my view, a new genre of horror, by excellently mixing survival and action. Over the past few years, there's been a blurring of the line between the genres of survival and action horror. The classic gameplay of titles like the original Resident Evil trilogy, or modern darlings like Signalis or Crow Country, stands in stark contrast to the arcadey, fast-paced action of Resident Evil 4 or Dead Space. On one hand, we have tight inventory management, resource scarcity and combat avoidance, interconnected map design, backtracking and forced exploration, and an emphasis on solving different kinds of puzzles. On the other hand, we have much more expansive inventories, stores and upgrade currencies, more linear level progression, fewer puzzles if any, and most importantly, enemies acting like piñatas dropping ammo, health, and credits. This makes combat something you always want to engage in because you're rewarded for it. You don't really have that feeling of, oh man, I don't want to spend my last 3 shotgun shells on that guy, maybe I can sneak around him. You want to kill everyone so you get the goodies. These are two fairly distinct genres of horror gaming, but there is crossover. Elisa, for example, is a very classic feeling survival horror game. It's got pretty much anything you'd want in a game of that genre, but enemies drop credits to spend in the store, which incentivizes confrontation. The remakes of RE4 and Dead Space incorporated more emphasis on exploration, resource management, puzzles, and interconnected map design. Still action horror titles, but with a nice survival horror flavor. And now we have Kronos: The New Dawn, going the distance and committing to hybridization. I believe Callisto Protocol made attempts at this genre fusion. I don't remember. That game was a gigantic mess when I played it, so I'm giving all the credit to Kronos because they nailed this shit. Kronos' action horror is in the resource drops during combat, a core ingredient to the formula. It is action horror in the shops and upgrades for your suit and weapons, and in the ability to buy more resources. It is action horror in its mostly linear mission objectives, leaving exploration largely optional in search of resources. But Kronos' survival horror is found in its very restrictive inventory space and resource amounts per slot. It is survival horror in how starved for ammo you often feel, making difficult crafting decisions, limping around half dead with 2 shotgun shells and nothing else. It is survival horror in its inclusion of various puzzles, passcodes, item-based puzzles, and solving riddles. We even have a variation of Resident Evil's Crimson Head mechanic, where instead of the dead coming back to life if you don't burn them, here we have living enemies consuming the dead to then mutate, creating intense moments in combat when you realize a mutation is occurring across the room and you might be too late. You don't want them to become higher level enemies because they can have different attacks, higher HP, even armor. To combat this, we have exploding barrels, proximity mines, and probably the most important to your first playthrough, torches, which lay down a radial blast of fire, interrupting enemy attacks, toasting the corpses around you, and putting the burning enemies into a stun state. Fire is super useful for taking on armored variations of monsters. They could be protecting their head or their legs. Sometimes it's hard in the moment to spot the opening, so you light them up and take your shot now that you have a chance to focus. The torch also gives you very important iframes to use it right when you're about to get hit. You always want to have one of these things on you for emergency situations.
Emergency situation. We know it's a situation. Everything is a situation.
The integration of environmental hazards highly complements combat. It's not a big list of options you have, but they are tactical and fun, especially the barrels you can reuse through time manipulation. The maps you're navigating also ride the line between genres, not being as puzzle-like as something like the Spencer Mansion where you can solve parts in different orders, but definitely more interesting than just linear buildings. Many parts of levels play with gravity, upside-down combat, giving the game a really special feel. Time manipulation grants access to closed-off spaces, repairing damage from the past and giving you more options during combat. You don't have a map, which is a pretty bold decision, but you also don't have Dead Space's waypoint system that tells you exactly where to go. Here you can pull up a compass with the press of a button if you want, but that only gives you a general direction to go. You still need to observe and think about how to actually get there. Levels are full of little spaces to explore, some of which are blocked by flesh that needs to be burned away. So are you going to use your torch in combat, or are you going to open a secret area? We have something similar to Dead Space's power nodes, which were used for upgrades or opening supply rooms. In Kronos, you're choosing between extra supplies or combat strategy, while your suit upgrades are purchased through cores, a rare resource typically found as a reward for good exploration or finding one of these cute cats.
I am Traveler ND3576. It is nice to meet you.
And energy to upgrade your weapons is found everywhere you go, in pickups and enemy drops, and in antique items you can sell at the store. I recommend turning off item indicators in the gameplay options, so you actually have to spot this stuff on your own. You'll miss a few things and might get a little confused at a point or two, but it's worth it. Keep the item shimmer on though, because sometimes it's too dark to see them otherwise. You'll be upgrading your suit strength, inventory capacity, torch duration, and many weapon parameters like firepower, reload time, clip. You can also use energy to buy additional ammo, health, and crafting supplies, which initially made me worry about easily breaking the game by buying hundreds of rounds like you can in Dead Space. But remember, this is a hybrid with survival horror. They limit the number of each item you can buy, and the energy you spend means you're delaying the important upgrading of your guns. Each resource purchase is a decision to hurt your own progression, but sometimes you'll be desperate enough to need to, and that resource desperation is key to survival horror. Additionally, even if you buy a bunch of ammo and health, you can't really take it with you. Each inventory slot holds a very small amount of each resource, and the expansion of your inventory is a grueling and expensive process, requiring many cores. And just as you expand, you'll find a new weapon that needs that slot. You feel like you just never have enough space, and that's awesome. In addition to torches opening up secret areas, so you always want to have one in your inventory, one of my favorite things about this game's survival side is the bolt cutters. Bolt cutters have appeared in so many games at this point, it's basically a tradition, but they're usually a one-and-done tool, maybe 2 or 3 times. In Kronos, there are more than a dozen doors to be opened with the bolt cutters. Every room contains goodies you don't want to miss. There's some opportunity for backtracking just to open that door. But this damned tool takes up a precious inventory slot, so it feels terrible to have it with you. It's your choice though, and I love that. I tried to keep them with me at all times. Then I'd put it away, sure a chained up door wasn't near, and then there it was, and I kicked myself for it. You really want to prioritize inventory expansion. Crafting is simple and intuitive, with small yields, just 5 handgun bullets, just 2 shotgun shells. You want to craft torches or proximity mines, but often you'll just have to bite the bullet and craft ammo because you're screwed if you don't. Also, and this is quite important to maintain the genre balance, not every enemy drops resources. Oftentimes you'll get nothing for the kill. And since you're so slow and you have no defensive maneuvers outside of torch, and the way to safety isn't entirely obvious a lot of the time, you feel scared enough of taking damage that you gotta take the shot. It can be hard to run away. You may avoid combat when you know you can to save precious ammo, but other times you're taking a real risk because you don't know what's ahead of you. Enemies don't seem to forget about you, so they'll stalk you through multiple rooms. Running away from them once they notice you could lead to a pretty bad situation later. Getting boxed in is a real problem, and you're only going to be able to push the monsters back with a charged shotgun blast. That takes a while. Charged pistol shot and shotgun are your best sources of damage, and that delay before the shot lets these guys get uncomfortably close sometimes. The charge time can be upgraded, and it penetrates all enemies. You can take out lines of guys or entire groups. Every weapon in the game is awesome, and it'll break your heart choosing which one to upgrade over another. Several weapons are found through optional areas of exploration. In a great story side quest, you'll find the Arbalist, and I pity the fool that doesn't find this thing. And the secret double-barrel shotgun, oh man, don't get me started, is amazing. I hope I've sold you on the game so far. You should just go play it if you're a fan of action or survival horror. But now I'm gonna make a balanced criticism that you're better off not hearing if you want to go in for a pure experience. One thing that bugs me about Dead Space is that if you're only holding one weapon, that's the ammo type you're gonna find in combat most of the time. I want Dead Space to push me into weapon variety through more ammo conservation. But it is very common for people to enjoy Dead Space with plasma cutter only runs, and this mechanic allows for it. I get it, it's fun, but in Kronos they're obviously pushing harder on the survival side of things, and I desperately want them to punish me for not carrying more than one gun. They do a better job than Dead Space by having various ammo types fall in combat. But if you're just running the starting pistol, upgrading it, and ignoring the other guns for inventory reasons, the game gives you enough crafting materials to compensate and play the whole game with just pistol and torches. You're able to just sell other ammo types and use that money for more pistol bullets or crafting materials. And you don't have to split your energy across multiple weapons as you upgrade. Just max out the pistol and you're good. You can also dump ammo into the save room chest and the game will start giving you more ammo for not having any on you. I don't think that should be the case. The game should know that you're storing ammo and then punish you for not carrying it with you. These are symptoms of the game being part action horror and adapting to the player's situation to help them along. You'll still max out your inventory space since it's so small, you'll still struggle in combat, but the game isn't balanced well enough to make you feel like you're really screwing yourself by not carrying the shotgun with you. I really wish they would retune the game's resource adaptation. Don't let me ignore my other weapons. I didn't on my first playthrough because they were so useful and I was learning the game. But don't let me keep that free inventory space and ignore tactical reloading and difficult crafting choices. If you're gonna call your game survival horror, make that commitment. A savvy player good at headshots on PC and smart with torch crafting is gonna be able to bypass a key part of the experience. But thankfully, a vast majority of players will at least be using the shotgun because of how powerful it is against groups. And they're still figuring out the game, so they don't want to handicap themselves. I think this is a minority issue. However, hard mode is a bit of a different story. Beating the game will unlock hard mode and New Game Plus. And if you play hard from scratch, you're in for a ride. More enemies, more higher level enemies, more armored enemies, much higher player damage. I just don't know how viable it is to play hard mode your first time and go only pistol and torches. I have completed a hard mode mostly pistol run, but on my third playthrough now that I know the game. It was very hard to keep it up. I died many times because I had no ammo due to my stubbornness, or I was just lacking the power I needed. It was amazing though. The biggest crafting decision this game offers is whether or not to make shotgun shells. You get 2 shells for 3 chemical and 2 gears. That's a huge investment for just 2 rounds. But goddamn it, sometimes you really need it. However, if you're running all pistol, that decision never happens, and you're just always crafting handgun ammo with chemical and always crafting fire attacks with the gears, and you enter a comfortable loop. If we don't get some kind of rebalancing, I'm gonna hope for a new extreme difficulty update that takes my points into consideration and truly forces a varied arsenal. If we do someday get an extreme mode, what we really need is limited saves. Maybe something like Dead Space 2's hardcore mode where you can only save 3 times. It is quite scary though to run pistol only because on hard mode, the real danger comes from the lack of checkpoints. Hard mode removes nearly every autosave point throughout the campaign, only safe zones for dedicated saves. With a lot of space and danger between them, you can lose gigantic amounts of progress. The entire 3-wing hospital has no checkpoints and only a save station at the entrance. It's brutal, so carry your other weapons with you, don't take the risk. I had over 20 deaths on my hard mode playthrough, and I needed every advantage that the other weapons could give me. The fear of losing all my progress made me play so much better. I repeated areas multiple times, desperately trying to pass it all, cursing myself over stupid mistakes. This is what I'm talking about. Hard mode turned this game into a near masterpiece for me, and it gave me another chance to absorb the story and see what's really going on. Even though I was doing repeated runs focused on playing better, I still stopped to read every note again, trying to better understand this fascinating world. So I guess I should get to the rest of what Kronos has to offer, right? The world has ended, devastated by an outbreak of a phenomenon that causes people to fuse together into monsters, hideous creatures with multiple heads and limbs. And in the future, there's this organization called the Collective that's been sending these things known as travelers to different moments in time to collect the essence of certain people. You are a newly awakened traveler, working with another one called the Warden, as you travel to different locations in this town and at different time periods. You'll see where the outbreak first occurred at the steel factory as it is now, overrun and covered in biomass, and then you'll see it on the day the steel mill fell and everyone fought for their lives. You have various targets, important people to extract and then upload to a database at the underground terminal where you came from. Each essence gives you an ability, like higher headshot damage, more energy yield, and extra damage on burning enemies like I said before. You also come across many fallen travelers, and you can absorb the essences they carried if you choose, to get new dialogue and new abilities. There are many audio messages left by the travelers talking about their experience in the world.
My anchor was destroyed. I am unable to make any more dives. Although I managed to extract my target, returning to the terminal without the right equipment, it seems impossible.
While the essences of the important people are with you, they begin to seep into your own personality. You hear their old conversations, and you actually get to talk to them, trying to unravel the mystery of the outbreak and the traveler's purpose. It can be a bit hard to follow since there's so much of it and it's very mysterious, but I really enjoyed digging in and figuring out what I could on multiple playthroughs, as well as reading some online summaries. I still have some questions, but by my third playthrough I became fully engrossed in the world and started piecing together all the clues. Cutscenes are intriguing, as the travelers are pretty charming and interesting to follow, having a cool, slow, methodical method to their speech.
Maybe he knew something that we are yet to understand.
Or maybe he was simply affected by them. Like you.
I found both of the travelers to be fairly compelling characters. There's even a bit of a RoboCop parallel, as our character goes from cold and robotic to more human and expressive over the course of the story. No dick shots though. As I often criticize in modern horror games like this, the amount of note reading is completely out of control and leads to a lot of stopping of the game's action. I enjoy the story, but I wish they'd shown some restraint in this department. You can skip cutscenes, and that's especially nice on replay, but some of them can't be skipped because of dialogue choices you have to make, many of which don't make a difference. These unskippable cutscenes are so long, I just go clean the bathroom or lift weights or whatever. They gotta do something about this. I'd like to see a way to skip directly to the dialogue choices in cutscenes after having beaten the game once. Artistically, Kronos is at times stunning. Anything involving the time anomalies, showing a fiery sky or shattered buildings in stasis, is just absolutely breathtaking. With DLSS on and no ray tracing, the game ran pretty well, but with some loading stutters and a few effects-heavy sections that kill the frame rate. Combat is visceral and gross. Melee can be used in stun states to save ammo. Shooting legs will drop enemies to the ground. And you know what? There are some pretty good boss fights in this game. Everything fun about combat comes together for these big fights. Using time manipulation to spawn barrels, stunning with torch, setting mines, fast crafting, the whole shebang. I'm also particularly fond of the wall creatures, very similar to the ones in Dead Space, but they use them a lot more effectively here in long creepy sections where you just don't know where they're gonna be, but they give you a lot of strategic opportunities to take them out before they see you. Common enemy variety is way better than Bloober's last game, the Silent Hill 2 remake, which features only 3 enemy types in the whole game. And while the original Silent Hill 2 didn't have a lot of enemies either, the remake is twice the length, so it needed something new. Hell, it actually has fewer enemy types than the original. Actually, several things are majorly improved over the SH2 remake. You don't have to be annoyingly precise to pick up items or interact with save stations. The camera zoom is far less of an issue because the action is better designed for the perspective. Now that I've mentioned it, I think Kronos will please both fans and detractors of Bloober's Silent Hill 2. I definitely prefer this. The Silent Hill 2 remake feels like a game Konami paid them to make, while Kronos feels like the game they actually wanted to make. You can feel the passion put into this project, and it deserves to be played. I don't have many criticisms of Kronos the New Dawn. Occasionally enemies will break through a wall or door, or resulting in you taking really cheap damage. I'd like to see this patched out if possible. In a baffling omission, there's no way to assign keybinds for weapons. They're stuck on the number keys. Why? Dead Space doesn't do this. Resident Evil doesn't do this. The Silent Hill 2 remake that Bloober Team released last year doesn't do this. Give me weapon keybinds, please. There's a really annoying issue on PC if you run multiple monitors. When you open the inventory, the mouse no longer locks to your main monitor. It can accidentally click out of the game, and you're not paused in the inventory screen, so if you accidentally click out of the game to another monitor, you can get killed. Especially if you get the full screen flicker effect that I do, because this game doesn't let me run borderless windowed in 1440p on my 4K monitor. It forces me to use full screen, so anytime I click out of the game or tab out, my monitors go nuts. I hate when games do this. I have gotten stuck on ladders or edges several times. Usually it's because I hit an attack button close to it, so I guess it's my fault. But sometimes it happens just from walking at the wrong angle. Gotta reload checkpoint, and on hard mode that could be 20 minutes lost. And Kronos is another one of those games that lazily paints breakable boxes with yellow paint. Hate that shit. But I got over it pretty quick. What was more annoying was the big obvious white paint on certain things I was supposed to interact with. Cause they had a decent solution for this. The melted candles and this hard white formation found in the world. If you're gonna use a color to signify something is climbable or whatever, try to make it part of the world. Don't just smear paint on it. I don't need random white paint to tell me to climb through this hole. I've already climbed through a bunch of them, it's obvious. Try lighting it more interestingly if you must. They've already shown they know how to do this. There are many examples of smart lighting placement to guide the player, like this flashlight on the ground pointing towards an important door. So guys, don't just give up and throw nonsensical paint on it. Whatever, the paint stuff isn't a huge negative, it's just kind of annoying because it could have easily been done better. Another issue is an annoying input bug that repeats held actions after it finishes. For example, fast crafting a medkit and then the game says I don't have enough to make another. I wasn't trying to make another, I just wanted to make one, but holding the button a frame too long starts another crafting sequence. And really, I just want more. I want a DLC. This is easily a Game of the Year contender and one of my favorite horror games of recent years. Probably one of my favorite horror games ever. I could see myself playing it a lot more. You bet your ass this is going to be part of the Best of the Year video in January. Sorry this video is kinda late. I've been taking a break from the weekly YouTube grind to focus on myself after 9 months of Doom content. I'm slowly getting back into the groove. But it was honestly nice to just take some time and play a game for fun again. 3 full playthroughs because I loved it, instead of just moving on to the next game. Thanks for watching, everyone. Oh, and I really like how the flashlight is shoulder mounted so you can look all around you without turning around. Pretty cool, yeah?